Hey there, and welcome to Strength in Sisterhood, a podcast where faith, friendship, and fierce encouragement come together.
We're here to share stories that will inspire and lift each other up while we grow in faith together.
No matter where you are, we're here to remind you that you are never alone. With God and a little sisterhood, we're stronger together.
So grab a cup of coffee and get ready to be encouraged and empowered.
Hello, and welcome to Strength in Sisterhood. I'm Amy.
And I'm Summer.
And we're really glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to be talking about, honestly, it's one of my favorite verses. Proverbs 27:1. I don't know why necessarily, can't really pinpoint.
Sure.
I just feel like there's a lot of depth to that verse.
Absolutely.
But I have been a fan of this verse for a long time. The verse is, "Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth." And so there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot to that verse. It sounds simple.
Right.
It was very easy to memorize. It's one of those that I've committed to memory years and years ago. But I do feel like there's a lot of depth to it.
Yeah.
Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. So could potentially be a big topic. I feel like I've gotten confirmation over the past couple days that this is what we ought to talk about.
Yeah.
I know you have had confirmation, and even right before we started before we hit record, if we feel like we feel oppression.
Yes.
We feel like it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably because it needs to be said.
Right.
Or somebody's going to need something from it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Lord's going to bless it somehow. That's what our prayer is.
Yeah.
Lord, help us to say the things that we need to say. Not say the things that don't need to be said. We just pray that this would be an encouragement to people.
Right.
To anybody who might be listening. So, stay tuned because it's going to be a good one. Before we get into the topic, let's fill up our cups, Summer.
Yeah.
So, Summer, what is your fill up my cup moment for this week?
Well, recently I had told everybody about my bread ministry that I started.
Love in every loaf.
Yes. Yes. Love in every loaf. And I did a drop off this last week. And honestly, I didn't know. Well, I'm just going to be honest. I was a little bummed.
Okay.
Because I hadn't, nobody had gone to there was no feedback.
Sure.
So, and I know going into this, I may never see the fruit of it. And I need to be okay with that. But this week I got an email from somebody who received a loaf.
Okay.
And she had just mentioned how much of a blessing it was to her and how it was the perfect pick-me-up in her words. So, and she said it was delicious.
Yeah.
So it met the mark on tasting good.
Good.
And then it was a blessing to her. And that's my desire. I desire to bless people and to share Christ with them. And it was just nice of her to send an email to me, letting me know some feedback on it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. You're just getting started.
Yeah.
You're just getting started with this ministry.
It's hard for me, though. I get so excited about something. And then I'm like, I want to know, are other people on the receiving end?
Yes.
Is it fulfilling what my desire is?
Right.
I may never know. And I have to be okay with not knowing.
Yeah. But it's really sweet and really nice when you do get those feedback of, I think it was probably one of the teachers.
It was a teacher, yes, that had received it. Most of the loaves are going to the kids.
Yes.
But I am setting aside because I was only making a smaller number, but I increased the amount of bread I was making for this delivery so that I could gift 1 or 2 loaves to a teacher for appreciation, just for what they do, nourishing the hearts and minds of young people. And so the teacher was the one who emailed me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
That's good. Me too. What was yours?
Well, my fill up my cup moment this week was kind of literal. Filling up my cup. A huge shout out to my friend Becca, who also listens to the podcast. She emailed us a gift card.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to read the note real quick here just because I thought it was so sweet. she said, hi there, a little thank you for the amazing work you both have been doing on your podcast. I've been so encouraged. Next time you sit down to record, coffee's on me.
Thanks, Becca.
So that's exactly what I did today.
Yes.
Before I headed over here to do recording, I asked Summer what her drink order was and picked it up. And so we have full cups.
It is delicious. Thank you so much, Becca. That is so thoughtful.
Yes, very much appreciate it. Very sweet. Unexpected, but appreciate that she listens and she has provided feedback.
Yeah.
Just super encouraging.
Yes, she is. I can see that about her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very thankful for that and looking forward to seeing them hopefully next month.
Yay.
They're going to come to visit.
That'll be awesome.
So thank you, Becca, for filling up our cups, for listening, and just for being so supportive and encouraging to us.
Yes.
Strength in sisterhood.
Thank you so much.
So that takes us into our topic today, like I mentioned earlier. Proverbs 27:1, boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. The primary thought, typically for me, that comes to mind when reading this verse is the fact that we are not guaranteed another day of life, and that each and every day people die, right? Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. You don't know what the day holds. You can have schedules, you can have things planned out, but ultimately the Lord's in charge of it.
Absolutely.
And we don't know what the day holds. And I thought when I was preparing for this topic, it made me think, it's kind of always given in that context of like life and death. You never know. You could die today. It always seems to be kind of in that context. And so I thought about it. I was like, well, I wonder how many people die each day.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a fun Google search to do.
How many people die each day?
Exactly. To type that in. But it was very interesting, the results of it. It says on average, 150,000 people die each day.
Wow.
That's a lot. And I thought, well, how much is that per week then? That equates to 1,050,000 people per week. So in a year, 52 weeks in a year, you're talking 52 million people dying each year.
Right.
Worldwide, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, that's a huge number. That's a sobering thought.
Yes.
And you think there's 8 billion people on Earth.
Yeah.
That's just a lot. So, whew.
Yeah.
But as I was preparing for this topic, I don't know about you. I know that you got some confirmation on it, but I got confirmation throughout the week.
Sure.
That this is what we ought to talk about. Just because the things that were going on in life, we're bringing it to mind. We talked about Brother Spurgeon's meeting on our previous episode, and he quoted this verse in one of his messages.
Yes, he did.
And I looked at you in the back I looked at the back of your head.
I wanted to turn around and look at you.
I was waiting to see if you would turn around and just be like, hey.
I almost did.
Yeah. I was looking at you like, hey, he's mentioning it. It was just moments like that. I had several of them.
Yeah.
Where this verse would have come up. Even this week for me, in my life, we had the day planned, and the Lord was like, nope, a phone call changed it all.
Right.
And so there's just different confirmations that we should talk about this topic. And it's interesting because we have just a little insider information. Mm-hmm. We have a list of different topics that we have thought of, and whether it just be through our daily life or our reading or whatever prayer time.
Yeah.
Hey, we should talk about this on the podcast. Hey, this would be an idea that we could talk about. And so this was on the list. And whenever we complete an episode, we usually take a little bit of a break, right. Mental break, to kind of clear our minds. And then, okay, well, we should probably start talking about what's our next topic so that we have a couple days to think about it, pray about it, get some ideas about what to say. And so we came up with this one, and it was just interesting that ever since we selected this on the list, I've received confirmation in my life. Like I've seen things in my life where it's just this verse keeps coming up. And then you have also received confirmation.
Yeah. Well, and he touched on that verse again on Wednesday night. A similar verse that I wanted to talk about today. But I'll go ahead and share the story of what kind of brought this verse for me. So, my brother-in-law lost his mom unexpectedly.
Sure.
I talked to my sister-in-law and she was telling me about how his mother was in the hospital. She had been having some abdominal pain.
Okay.
I think it was the day before. She had some abdominal pain and she had passed out at one point, but she was adamant about not going to the hospital. So her husband, while she was taking a nap, decided to call an ambulance. So the ambulance came and got her, took her to the hospital. They did a CT scan and found out that she actually has cancer in her lungs, and in her liver, and in her colon. Yep. And my sister-in-law had texted me and said, unexpected update. They're switching to end of life care. She's not improving. CT showed that the cancer is too aggressive or advanced to treat. So they're giving her a week to a month to live.
Why? So,
of course, my mind instantly is like, is she saved?
Sure.
So I had asked my sister-in-law how she felt about me coming to the hospital and bringing a loaf of bread for her husband, just to kind of almost really, not almost, but as an in. I'd only met her once when my brother and sister-in-law had gotten married.
Yeah.
And so she wouldn't probably recognize me or know really who I was. But I was willing to go to the hospital, bring a loaf of bread, and try to get an opportunity to witness to her and ask her where she, she's got a week to a month to live.
Sure.
But my sister-in-law had said, probably not. She's a very private person. She probably wouldn't like that. But it sounds like hospice is getting set up. So she'll probably have a bed at home.
Okay.
And that might be a better time to come by. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm praying, for her and whatnot, and praying for an opportunity to come by their home at some point. Well, the very next day, my sister-in-law sends me a message and saying that things are going downhill quickly.
Oh.
And they actually now say within the next 24 hours, her organs are starting to shut down. So from the point of going to the hospital to the time of death was within 48 hours. And so I had asked, did she have any previous health issues? I knew she had a couple years ago. I couldn't remember what they were. And my sister-in-law had said that she did have a cardiac arrest a couple years ago.
Okay.
And around that same time, there was a polyp that she had removed or something, and she was supposed to come back 6 months later, and she didn't come back. And so she's likely had cancer, but now it's at this point where it's so aggressive they couldn't do anything. So just like that.
That's fast.
That is so fast. So fast. And so that was a very sobering moment for me. Now I lost the opportunity to go there. And when my sister-in-law had messaged me about 24 hours, I really just started praying, Lord, bring someone, someone to her bedside that could tell her about you. And I don't know, it was really sobering to think about her life and how quick. And I'm thinking eternity, where's her soul going to rest for eternity? Where's it going to lie? And so I didn't even realize that Boast Not Thyself of tomorrow was on our list.
Oh.
And so when we had talked about it, you had said, so what are you thinking for this week? And then I told you, well, I think Boast Not Thyself, not even realizing that was already on our list.
Sure.
And then with the stuff with you and the confirmation that you've been getting, we just don't know. And I wanted to share that in verse in James, James chapter 4, verse 14 says, whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow, For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away. And that to me, that was on the last night that Brother Spurgeon had preached. And so that was just another reminder of like, this is something to talk about because our life is but a vapor.
Yes.
Every one of us will spend an eternity somewhere.
Right.
And it's when I say sobering, it is in the forefront of my mind. Lord, help me to see people as souls around me, as lost or saved. You know, those that are saved are going to heaven for eternity to live in peace and without pain and no sorrow and where no tears are. And you get to be with the Lord forever. And then those who aren't are cast into the lake of fire. And they don't die there. They're going to live in that for eternity.
Right.
I think sometimes we think in our mind that when we die, people that are lost, you know, that they, well, you know, I may go to hell, but they don't realize you don't just die in hell. You don't burn up.
Right.
It's an eternal burning.
It's an eternal thing. Yeah.
And so the weight of that, it's a driving force for me to try to be in constant prayer for the people that I come in contact with and to see them as souls. And I feel like if I can picture, if the Lord can just give me discernment and picture people that I'm around burning in hell, I don't want that for anyone. I wouldn't want that for my worst enemy. I don't even have really any real enemies, you know, other than the devil and myself. But people will spend eternity there. And I just think about her and her life, and I don't know where she's at. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think about my loved ones, my family, my friends. It's just a vapor.
To kind of have that spiritual viewpoint, you know, to see that, oh, anybody that you come in contact with, the cashier at the grocery store or the person who just cut you off in traffic.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
You know, like they're all, to not see them as just people, but to see them as souls.
Yes. Yeah.
That will spend an eternity somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to assume, you know, this whole last week, just walking through Walmart, I pass aisle after aisle after aisle, and I'm looking on each aisle. And there's people in each one. And I think, where are they going? Where's that one going?
Yeah.
You know?
And all we can do, it can be a heavy burden. It's a good thing to ask the Lord to give you that spiritual eyes.
Right.
You know, to see people as souls. But it can be a heavy burden sometimes. Because, yes, you don't want anybody to go to hell and spend eternity in torment. But we're called to be a witness, and we're called to be a light. And ultimately, it's up to them.
Absolutely.
So I just have to do my part of speaking up when he prompts me to.
And the burden that is, and that the harshness of that when you don't. I even experienced that this week. And that's hard when you think about it.
But he gives us, one thing that I take a comfort in from time to time is he desires to see people saved even more so than we do.
Yeah.
And he is a God of second chances, 77 chances. You know, like, I am not, he knows our frailties as well. So it's almost sometimes I think of too, like, well, I'll send Amy along this person's path.
Right.
And then when I screw it up, okay, well, I knew that was a possibility. So I'm going to send Steve over here across this person's path instead.
Yeah.
You know, and just, because the Lord's good that way.
Yes.
You know, he knows our frailties. And
that is comforting to know because, like I said, this week, even with the mindset of seeing souls, I still failed to act when I was prompted. And I walked out of there just feeling like the smallest piece of dirt. But one thing I do know is that God is merciful.
Yes.
And God is long-suffering. And like you say, okay, kind of expected that. So I'm going to have somebody else, you know, like, it just can be, it can be hard.
Well, it's like almost, I mean, I'm not a parent, but when you're raising your kid and you're training them to do something, right? Like you don't just explain to them how to do it and expect them to do it the first time.
Yeah.
You know that they're going to stumble.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
And mess up.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm going to give you an opportunity in a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're going to try it again. And I feel like that's how the Lord is. He's our Heavenly Father.
Yes.
Okay, Amy. Well, you asked Summer. You asked for spiritual eyes.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you walk out of there and being like, sorry, Lord, I stumbled on that one. That's okay. Yeah. I'll give you another opportunity, just like I'm going to give that person that you had the opportunity to. I'm going to give them another opportunity. So I appreciate that he's like that he's so merciful like that.
Yes.
But it's interesting because with that story about your brother-in-law's mom, it makes me think of the quickness of that. It makes me think of Job.
Yes. Oh, man. Yeah.
And I mean, if there was a competition of who had the worst day in the Bible,
yeah,
I don't know if Job would necessarily win, but he's in the
top. Yeah,
he's a contender.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you've ever read the book of Job, even just chapter 1, he lost everything in one day. And it feels like he lost it all in about the span of, I would say, half an hour.
Oh, that easy.
Because, like, for example, I have Job 1 here open, and it says, and there was a day, verse 13. Well, let's start at verse 12. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power, only upon himself put not forth thy hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord to go and give it to Job. Yeah. And the Lord said, hey, hast thou considered my servant Job? Right. So the Lord allowed it.
Right.
And it says in verse 13, and there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came, verse 14, and there came a messenger unto Job and said, the oxen were plowing and the asses feeding beside them, and the Sabeans fell upon them, and they took them away. Yea, they have slain all the servants with the edge of the sword, and only I am escaped alone to tell thee. And while he was yet speaking,
right,
there came also another and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and only I am escaped to tell thee. And while he was yet speaking, so they're all interrupting each other, giving him bad news. He loses all his sheep and his cattle, all his animals. Yeah. Most of his servants, except for the ones that were saved to go and tell him about it. Right. He loses all of his children, sons and daughters, all in one day. He loses everything except for his health. Right. And which will come later. Yes. Be taken away later. And he has his wife and a couple of friends. Yeah. In the Lord. But he lost everything. And I know that there's a saying that goes around that along the lines of God won't give you more than you can handle. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that I have said that in the past too. Yeah. But I would adamantly disagree with that statement.
100%.
God absolutely will give you more than you can handle because he wants us to lean upon him. Right. To trust him. Yeah. To need him. Mm-hmm. There are hymns about it. Yeah. I think of, I need thee every hour. And day by day, and with each passing moment. Mm-hmm. And one of them is, I must tell Jesus all of my troubles. Like he desires for us to need him. Right. And those are just hymns. Yeah. This Bible is full of verses that tell us that we need him. Yeah. And I think of Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy paths. Yeah. Like, if I direct the path, I'm getting lost. I'll be around in circles. But and then even 2 Corinthians 12, verses 9 and 10, my grace is sufficient. Yeah. For thee. Like those promises are in there. Jeremiah 33:3. My brother always says that that's God's phone number. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, that is neat.
Amy, you know God's phone number, right? What? Jeremiah 33:3.
It's like call
unto me. Yeah. And I will answer thee and show thee great and mighty things, which thou knowest not of.
Yeah. Amen.
And so I just love those. There's so many verses that are promises like that because he bids us to trust in him.
Yeah.
He wants us to be weak. In that verse of 2 Corinthians, when I am weak, then am I strong.
Yes. Yep.
My grace is sufficient for my grace. The Lord's grace is sufficient for you. Amy, you don't need to go and try and direct your own paths. And that actually makes me think of, even with our context verse, Proverbs 27:1. Boast not thyself of tomorrow, for thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. It's almost like, I was thinking about it this week, and I was like, I don't want to change the Bible. I like the King James.
Amen.
I love the King James. I'm ruined for the King James.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, to put it in layman terms, or to, what do they call that? I'm trying to think, paraphrase. When I was thinking about this verse, I thought it's almost like the Lord is saying in Proverbs 27:1, don't be too proud of yourself. You don't set the schedule today. I do. Yeah. And that is absolutely true. Yes. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why I like this verse so much, is because it's humbling. Yeah. You are not in charge of today. Like, you can go ahead and you can schedule the little things that you think you're going to schedule. Yeah. And maybe I'll allow those things to come to pass. But I got a few other things that I'm going to throw into your day. Right. And see how it shakes out. And,
well, that's what we want.
Yes.
We want him to direct our day.
Yes.
We want him directing our life. We want to be in his will for our life.
It's interesting because when I actually started my notes here for today's podcast, you know when I started that? 5:23 in the morning. Sure. Because I woke up and my mind just flooded with all these ideas. Yeah. Because typically I set a lot of alarms in the morning. I like to take my time. I'm not one of those people who sets an alarm, one alarm. Are you crazy?
Can't trust that.
Sets one alarm.
Is there anyone out there? I don't know of anybody who does that.
I don't know. If they do, I would like to meet them.
Same.
I feel like there's things I could learn from them.
Maybe.
But who sets one alarm and gets out of bed right away?
Yeah.
Not this gal.
Same.
That bed is so comfortable in the morning. It's nice and warm. All the day's responsibilities and obligations exist outside of the realm.
Right. For at least 45 minutes.
And so it's just I just want to. But that has actually become a very good time for me to talk with the Lord.
Sure. Yeah.
I wake up and, okay, Lord, I just start praying.
Right.
Why? It's quiet. It's dark. I'm starting to wake up, right? And, okay, Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for allowing me to wake up and breathe this morning. Yeah. I don't know what's all in store for today. I know what my expectations are, but help me to form my day. Right. You are the potter. I am the clay.
Amen.
So how you want to set the day, help me to be submissive to it.
Right.
Help me to see your hand guiding and directing.
Yes.
If I need to go here, see me to not see that as an inconvenience, but maybe that's you're leading me.
Absolutely.
To go and run that.
That's good.
Or you're leading me to go here. Or you're keeping me here longer. Maybe that's for my protection and safety. Because how many times have you maybe driven somewhere and then you come upon an accident?
Yeah.
Oh, if I'd have left 5 minutes earlier.
Could have been me.
That could have been me.
Right.
So.
That's good.
There's so many things, and I've just been able to utilize that time as I'm trying to grow it into a habit. It can be somewhat sporadic sometimes, but I'm trying to grow that into a habit of just bringing him in because they're starting my day out with him.
Right.
And because it's fresh slate.
Yes. His mercies are new every morning.
Every morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankful for that.
But there's other applications that come to mind with this verse.
Oh, yeah.
Like we have talked about, yes, life and death. Even when Brother Spurgeon mentioned it, he kind of mentioned it in that context of, you don't know. You could get in an accident today. Yeah. Your life makes me think of that. Is it a parable in the New Testament where he fills up he brings in his increase, his fruits and all that stuff. And I have a surplus. I'm going to build bigger barns and I'm going to enjoy this. And thou fool,
Right.
your soul will be required of you tonight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you build up your barns and you live in excess, but your soul's required of you.
Mm.
And so it is a lot of times given in that context of you're not promised tomorrow, right? Boast not thyself of tomorrow. Mm. Don't be too proud of yourself. You might not have tomorrow.
Right.
But there's another application that I think about with this verse as well as the humility that I'm not in charge of my day, that the Lord is, but also the gratitude to not take things for granted.
Yes.
Not take people for granted.
Yes.
You know, we just came out of a special meeting and we had a fantastic song services. There are people in our church that are skilled singers.
Yes.
Skilled musicians. We had a teen group get up and sing. Yep. Teenagers. Mm-hmm. Taken amongst themselves to prepare a song and stand up in front of the church and sing a song.
Yeah.
That's our future.
Yes.
I appreciate singing that.
Mm-hmm.
Or seeing them do that.
Right.
But help me to not take for granted today.
Yeah.
The people that I love, help me to express and to show them that I love them.
Right.
Because many people, even people within my own family, have experienced that.
Right.
Have experienced their family, okay, I'm going to go run this errand, and then you get a phone call. Mm-hmm. There's been an accident.
Yeah.
And you don't ever get to speak to that person. You don't ever get to hear their voice again. You know, yes. And those are hard things to live with.
Right.
So sometimes the context is, or the thought with this verse is, I may not be guaranteed tomorrow, but I might still have plenty more tomorrows in me, but people that I love.
Maybe not. Mm-hmm.
Maybe not. So I want to enjoy the laughter, the sound of, we talked about laughter in one of our episodes, and the sound of a loved one's laughter. Mm-hmm. I try to soak some of those things in.
Right.
Or just enjoying it.
Well, the Bible says to redeem the time.
Yes.
So that's what we need to do. We need to be redeeming the time because the days are evil.
And also be present. It feels like one of the things that we're fighting against right now in our society is to be present.
Yeah. Yes.
We are on Instagram. You know, we have an Instagram page. That's just what we do. We feel like we have to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And in this day and age. And so I'm not totally opposed to those things. I utilize those things. I'm just like, you know, have a phone and go on YouTube and scroll Instagram and do all those things. But when I'm with people, I want to try to be with people.
Yes. Put the phones down.
Yes.
Turn the TV off.
Yes.
Get rid of the distractions and be.
Be with people. Listen. Mm-hmm. If somebody's telling you about their day, pay attention. I'm really bad about... Church is not my favorite place to have conversations because there's so many distractions. And I feel very distracted at having conversations there. So I'm much rather like, hey, let's go out for a meal, or let's grab a cup of coffee, or even texting. Right. You know, you can text and have a conversation. But when you're with people, be with people.
Yes.
Because this verse kind of comes to mind with that. Like, boast not thyself of tomorrow. You're not guaranteed another day. Take that hug.
Yes.
Greet with a hug. Leave with a hug. Like, just sometimes those little moments.
Yeah.
Cherish them.
Right. Yeah.
Because you don't know how many of them you have left.
Right.
You know?
Or how many they might have.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's what I mean. Like, it feels like there's a lot of layers to this verse. Mm-hmm. But that's probably one of the reasons why I love it so much.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah. Well, with that, we will go to gratitude moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Summer. So what is your gratitude moment for this week?
So mine is, I'm thankful to be part of ministries within our church, in our church family. Last night we had a teen group activity, and I just really enjoy being with them. Mm-hmm. They're a good group of kids. They have a lot of personality.
Oh, yeah.
And I can be real playful and tease and joke and make fun. But that's kind of the way I show love, I feel like. It lets me know. I think it should let people know that I'm comfortable with them.
Yes.
If I can tease you, I'm comfortable with you. And
I used to always say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
I always used to say, I only pick on those people that I really like.
That's right.
So, or as a badge of honor.
Or that can handle it. Because there's some people that maybe are a little tender and can't handle it. True. Didn't grow up being teased.
Yeah, that's true.
I grew up being teased.
Same.
By family, friends. I've been teased. I still get teased.
It's an unofficial love language.
I think so.
Yeah.
I use it. But these kids will tease me too. And I think it's just fun.
Sure.
So I really had a good time with them, and I'm thankful to be a part of that ministry. So what about you? What is your gratitude?
Oh, my gratitude moment is I'm thankful for the conversations that have come from some of the listeners through our episodes. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I'm going to say her name, call out Kate, my friend Kate.
Oh, sure.
Because hopefully she will be a guest on our show sooner rather than later, because we would like to start having some guests because we know some amazing women. Mm-hmm. And Kate is one of those amazing women.
Yeah, agreed.
But she was telling me, she shared with me her Ebenezer story.
Sure.
Of how the Lord was just faithful. And I just love that.
Yeah.
We go and Kate and I talk quite a bit. Kate's a very close friend. Love her like a sister. You know, she's amazing.
Yeah.
And she's one of the people that I probably talk to the most.
Sure.
Outside of my family.
Right.
But she's probably one of the people that I talk to the most. But I just love, she was telling me about her Ebenezer story, and then how she was sharing that with her family, and then somebody in her family was able to share their Ebenezer. Like it almost kind of felt like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Like that episode spurred on these different conversations, even within people that we see all the time.
Right.
But we don't necessarily always have those types of conversations. Mm-hmm. And so it was just encouraging to me. I'm thankful that she shared that Ebenezer story with me. She has
gone through a lot
of Ebenezer stones, a lot of Ebenezer stories.
Yeah.
So that's why I would love to have her on the podcast, because
we totally should.
Not only is she an amazing woman, has tons of stories, but she is fun.
Yes,
she is easy to talk to, and she is fun.
Yeah.
So, but I'm really thankful for that. I'm just thankful for even some of those conversations that have come through.
Because of the topics.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's neat.
And just how this has helped spur on even in a personal life, with just people that, like I said, people that we know.
Conversations within their own family about this. Yeah.
Yeah. And just, I might not have ever, I almost kind of want to, the next time like we sing Come Thou Fount in church, like that's the visual that I have in my head of like, when we get to that part here, I raise mine Ebenezer, like just visualizing all these different people in these pews raising stones. Like, here I raise mine Ebenezer. We all have them.
Right.
Because the Lord's so good.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord has been a help. That's what that means, is the Lord has been helpful and has been a help and faithful. And I love that visual, and I love the conversations that have come from it. And I want to know more.
Same. Yes.
It's like, I want to share, like, if you have an Ebenezer story, tell us.
Yeah, please.
Share it with us.
Mm-hmm.
We're on Substack under Strength and Sisterhood. We are on Instagram under Strength and Sisterhood Pod. We have an email account, strengthandsisterhoodpod@gmail.com. We're on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the world, we're on Spotify. People can leave comments on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a comment. Share us your Ebenezer story. Send us an email. I love hearing those things.
Or about even the Boast Not Thyself. If you have a moment where that verse, is a reflection of something in your life specifically.
Yeah. Or how that verse has popped up in your life or worked out in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or things that you don't want to take for granted.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up our episode for today. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our podcast today, our episode today. Like we said, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. We appreciate the feedback. And until next week, we'll see you then.
Bye.
See ya.